The wind gauge spun wildly, its needle dancing between 40 and 65 miles per hour like a frantic metronome. Rain hammered the observation deck in sheets so thick the world beyond 50 yards had simply vanished into gray chaos. Detective Maya Chen pressed her face against the reinforced glass of the police command center, watching emergency vehicles crawl through flooded streets below. Hurricane Delilah had made landfall 3 hours early, catching everyone off guard. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Chen. Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through the storm's howl. She turned to find him standing beside a cluster of tactical officers, all of them studying blueprints, spread across a metal table. Water dripped steadily from a leak in the ceiling corner, creating a rhythmic ping against an overturned coffee mug. You're our backup sniper for the Meridian Tower situation. Maya nodded without expression. Backup? Always backup. She'd heard those words so many times they'd lost their sting, but the dismissive glances from the other officers still registered. Detective First Class Tommy Reeves, the department's Golden Boy marksman, was suiting up near the equipment lockers. His custom rifle case bore scratches from dozens of successful operations. His reputation preceded him into every room. Storm's getting worse, Reeves announced, checking his scope's lens caps. But I've worked in rough weather before. That psycho holed up on the 40th floor picked the wrong day to take hostages. He glanced toward Maya with the kind of look reserved for trainees. Good thing you'll be watching from down here, Chen. Wouldn't want you getting blown off a rooftop. The other officers chuckled. Maya adjusted her equipment vest without responding. She'd learned long ago that words rarely changed minds. Performance did. But in a department where high-profile assignments went to the loudest voices and biggest personalities, performance opportunities were scarce for someone who preferred precision over politics. The tactical briefing lasted 15 minutes. Gerald Voss, a 43-year-old accountant who'd snapped after losing his job and family in the same week, had barricaded himself in the offices of Hartwell Financial on the 40th floor of Meridian Tower. He'd taken 6 employees hostage, including 2 pregnant women and an elderly security guard with a heart condition. Voss had a hunting rifle, basic ammunition, and 13 hours of increasingly erratic phone conversations with negotiators behind him. Buildings mostly evacuated, Lieutenant Carson explained, pointing to the architectural drawings. But we've got civilians trapped on floors 38 and 39. Power's intermittent. Elevators are down. And this storm... He gestured toward the windows where rain continued its relentless assault. Visibility's near zero above the 20th floor. Maya studied the building schematics while the others discussed entry strategies. Meridian Tower stood 42 stories tall, its glass facade designed to withstand normal weather patterns but never tested against a Category 3 hurricane. The wind patterns around tall buildings created unpredictable air currents even in calm conditions. In weather like this, those currents became violent, swirling columns of force that could deflect a bullet by several feet across a distance of 200 yards. Reeves, you'll set up on the Parker Hotel roof, Captain Rodriguez continued. 230 yards, elevated position, clear line of sight to the target floor when visibility allows. Chen, you're stationed in the Plaza building lobby. If something happens to Reeves or his equipment, you're our fallback. Maya nodded again. Fallback. The Plaza building stood 7 blocks away, offering a ground-level position with limited angles and nearly impossible sightlines through the storm. It was the kind of assignment designed to keep her busy without expecting results. The other officers began gathering their gear. Radio chatter filled the room as teams coordinated positions. Maya checked her equipment methodically. Rifle cleaning kit, extra ammunition, weather protection for her scope, backup communication devices. Everything she'd need for a long wait in a lobby chair. You sure you'll be okay over there by yourself? Officer Janet Mills asked, not unkindly. She was one of the few who'd ever bothered learning Maya's first name. Storm's supposed to get worse before it gets better. I'll manage, Maya replied, securing her rifle case. Through the windows, she could see Reeves and his spotter loading their equipment into an armored vehicle. The engine roared to life, and they disappeared into the gray curtain of rain, heading toward their primary position with all the confidence of men who'd never failed at anything that mattered. Maya gathered her gear and walked toward the parking garage. Her assigned vehicle was a standard patrol car, older model with temperamental windshield wipers and a radio that crackled with static even in good weather. She loaded her equipment into the back seat and started the engine. The wipers struggled against the rain as she pulled out into streets that looked more like rivers. The drive to the plaza building took 20 minutes through water that reached her wheel wells. Abandoned cars sat scattered along the roadside like discarded toys. Streetlights flickered on and off in random patterns. Maya parked under the building's covered entrance and carried her gear through glass doors that shuddered with each wind gust. The plaza building's lobby stretched wide and empty, its marble floors reflecting emergency lighting from backup generators. The regular security staff had evacuated hours earlier, leaving only essential personnel to monitor building systems. Maya found a position near the east windows that offered a partial view of Meridian Tower's upper floors when the rain allowed it. She unpacked her rifle carefully, a Remington 700 she'd customized over 5 years of weekend modifications. The scope was newer than the weapon itself, purchased with overtime pay from traffic details and court appearances. Maya had zeroed it at ranges from 100 to 600 yards, in conditions from dead calm to 20-mile-per-hour crosswinds. But she'd never attempted a shot in hurricane-force weather. Nobody had. Radio chatter kept her connected to the operation as teams moved into position around Meridian Tower. Reeves reported from the Parker Hotel roof that visibility was worse than expected but manageable. Negotiators continued their dialogue with Voss, who alternated between tears and rage as he described his financial ruin and personal failures. The hostages remained silent on the phone, but occasional background sounds suggested they were unharmed. Maya settled into a leather chair positioned behind a concrete column. Through the rain-streaked windows, she could barely make out the outline of Meridian Tower. The building swayed slightly in the wind, its movement barely perceptible but definitely present. Any shot from this distance would need to account for not just wind speed and direction, but the target building's structural flex under hurricane stress. She opened a small notebook and began recording observations. Wind patterns visible through the movement of debris, rain intensity variations, the timing of gusts that cleared visibility for brief moments. Numbers filled the margins as she calculated angles, distances, and the complex mathematics of long-range accuracy in impossible conditions. "All units, this is command," the radio crackled. "Suspect has moved hostages to the southeast corner office. Negotiations continue, but he's becoming increasingly agitated. Stand by for further instructions." Maya adjusted her position to gain a better view of the southeast corner. Through her scope, when the rain thinned momentarily, she could see shapes moving behind the windows on the 40th floor. Voss appeared to be pacing, gesturing wildly with his rifle. The hostages sat clustered near filing cabinets, their faces pale with fear. 2 hours passed. The storm showed no signs of weakening. Reeves reported equipment challenges from his rooftop position as wind gusts repeatedly forced him to recalibrate his setup. His spotter's voice grew increasingly strained as they fought to maintain stable observation conditions. "Command, this is Reeves. I've got eyes on the target area, but these wind patterns are unlike anything I've trained for. Every time I get a clean sight picture, another gust moves everything. I need the meteorology team to give me more predictable timing on these gusts." Maya listened while continuing her own observations. Weather patterns around tall buildings followed certain principles, but hurricanes created chaotic systems that defied prediction. She'd studied atmospheric dynamics as part of her long-range shooting education, learning how temperature inversions and pressure differentials affected bullet trajectory. The knowledge had seemed academic then. Now it felt essential. "All units, we have a development," command announced. "Suspect has fired 1 round into the ceiling. Hostages appear unharmed, but his behavior is escalating. Dr. Patterson from Crisis Negotiation estimates we have maybe 30 minutes before this situation deteriorates significantly." Maya felt her pulse steady rather than quicken. High-stress situations had always affected her differently than most people. Where others felt adrenaline and urgency, she experienced a kind of crystalline focus that slowed time and sharpened details. Through her scope, she watched Voss wave his rifle toward the windows, shouting something she couldn't hear over the storm. "Reeves, what's your status?" command asked. Static filled the channel for several seconds before his voice returned. tight with frustration. Equipment's holding, but I cannot get a consistent sight picture. These gusts are coming from 3 different directions simultaneously. I've never seen conditions like this. If I take a shot now, I'm as likely to hit a hostage as the suspect. Maya keyed her radio. Command, this is Chen. I have visual on the target area from Plaza Building. Conditions are challenging, but not impossible. A pause. Then Captain Rodriguez's voice. Chen, you're over 300 yards out with ground-level positioning. Your angle's all wrong for a clean shot. Understood, sir. But the building sway is less pronounced from this angle, and I'm getting more consistent wind pattern readings down here. The storm creates a tunnel effect between these buildings that's actually more predictable than the chaotic currents at roof level. Another pause, longer this time. Maya knew they were calculating odds, weighing options. Reeves was their first choice, their proven performer. She was backup equipment, not meant to be used unless everything else failed. Stand by, Chen, Rodriguez finally said. Through her scope, Maya watched Voss grab one of the hostages, an older man in a maintenance uniform. The suspect pressed his rifle barrel against the man's temple while shouting toward the windows. Even without audio, his deteriorating mental state was obvious. The other hostages pressed themselves against the far wall, terror written across their faces. Command, this is Dr. Patterson. Suspect psychology is collapsing rapidly. Classic indicators of imminent violence. Estimate less than 15 minutes before he hurts someone. Maya adjusted her scope's windage and elevation settings based on her calculations. The math was complex. Bullet drop over 320 yards, wind deflection from multiple directions, the movement of the target building, and the suspect's own motion as he paced. She'd need to time her shot for the precise moment when multiple variables aligned. Reeves, talk to me, command pressed. Sir, I need more time. Officer Daniel Kowalski had handled explosive ordnance disposal for 6 years. Detective Sarah Martinez specialized in close-quarters combat and had trained with federal agencies. Lieutenant James Park brought helicopter insertion expertise from his military background. Each officer represented a specific tactical discipline, chosen to form a comprehensive unit capable of handling complex scenarios. All right, listen up, Webb announced, his voice cutting through the morning chatter. Next 4 weeks will determine who joins the regional tactical response team and who goes back to regular patrol duties. This isn't sensitivity training or team building. This is evaluation under stress. You'll be tested on marksmanship, tactical decision-making, equipment proficiency, and psychological stability under pressure. He gestured toward a series of buildings visible across the training ground, mock urban environments, sniper hides, close-quarters battle houses, and scenario rooms designed to replicate every conceivable law enforcement situation. Your performance here determines whether you're qualified to handle situations where failure means innocent people die. I don't pass students because they try hard or show improvement. I pass students who demonstrate they won't fold when lives depend on their skills. The first exercise began immediately. Individual marksmanship assessment at distances from 50 to 400 yards, using department-issued rifles with standard optics. No personal equipment, no customized setups, no allowances for individual preferences. Maya drew a Remington 700 from the equipment rack, checked its mechanical condition, and zeroed the scope methodically while the others did the same. The rifle felt different from her personal weapon. Heavier trigger pull, slightly different balance point, scope with less precise adjustment mechanisms. She noted these differences without complaint and adapted her shooting technique accordingly. Beside her, Officer Kowalski muttered complaints about the equipment quality. Detective Martinez asked Webb if she could adjust the stock length. The others made similar requests for modifications. You shoot with what you're given, Webb replied flatly. Real operations don't wait for you to customize your gear. The first string of fire consisted of 10 rounds at 200 yards, prone position, no time limit. Through her scope, she could see Voss's face clearly now, twisted with rage and desperation. 5 seconds. 4. The pregnant woman's eyes were closed, tears streaming down her cheeks. 3. 2. The wind calmed. Maya's crosshairs settled on Voss's center mass, accounting for the bullet's drop and the slight leftward drift she'd calculated. 1 second of perfect stillness in the chaos. She squeezed the trigger. The rifle bucked against her shoulder. Through the scope, she watched her bullet cross the space between buildings, cutting through rain and wind with the precision she'd spent years developing. Time seemed suspended as the round traveled its arc, defying the hurricane forces that should have made such a shot impossible. Voss jerked backward, his rifle flying from his hands as he collapsed. The pregnant woman stumbled away from him, alive and unharmed. The other hostages remained motionless for several seconds, unable to believe their ordeal was over. "Shot fired! Shot fired!" Maya reported into her radio. "Suspect down. Hostages appear safe." Chaos erupted on the radio channels as teams confirmed the successful shot and began coordinating entry into the building. Maya remained in position, watching through her scope as tactical officers reached the 40th floor and secured the scene. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. The hostages were led away from Voss's motionless form. Paramedics worked over his body, but Maya already knew her shot had been fatal. Center mass at 320 yards in hurricane winds, the kind of shot that shouldn't have been possible. 20 minutes later, Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through the radio chatter. "Chen, return to command. Immediate debrief required." Maya packed her equipment methodically, same routine she'd followed hundreds of times at the range. Her hands were steady, her movements precise. The shot had felt inevitable once she'd made the decision to take it. Everything else was just mathematics and training. The drive back to command took longer than before, as emergency vehicles crowded the flooded streets. Maya parked in the same space she'd left hours earlier and carried her gear up to the briefing room. Captain Rodriguez waited with several other officers, including Reeves, who looked like he'd aged 5 years during his time on the rooftop. "Chen," Rodriguez gestured toward a chair at the head of the conference table. "Walk us through what happened." Maya set down her rifle case and pulled out her notebook, pages filled with calculations and observations. "I established position at Plaza Building at 14:30 hours. Initial conditions showed wind speeds between 40 and 65 miles per hour, gusting from multiple directions. Visibility was severely limited, but I was able to observe target area intermittently." She continued her report in the same measured tone she'd use for any routine incident. Distance calculations, environmental factors, timing considerations. The other officers listened in silence as she described mathematical concepts most of them had never considered. Wind tunnel effects between buildings, pressure differentials at various altitudes, the physics of bullet trajectory in chaotic atmospheric conditions. The key factor was recognizing the pattern in the wind gusts, Maya explained. Even in hurricane conditions, air movement follows certain principles. I timed the intervals between directional changes and identified windows of relative stability lasting approximately 2 seconds each. Officer Mills spoke first. "Maya, that shot was over 300 yards in hurricane-force winds. How did you even know it was possible?" "I didn't know it was possible. I calculated the probability based on observable conditions and determined it was worth attempting given the alternative outcomes." Reeves leaned forward. "I've been shooting for 15 years, and I couldn't get a stable sight picture from 200 yards up on that roof. How did you manage it from ground level at a longer distance?" Maya looked at him directly for the first time that day. "Different position, different variables. Your rooftop location exposed you to the full chaos of the storm. My ground position was protected by the building structures, which created more predictable wind patterns." The room fell silent as the implications settled in. Maya had succeeded where their primary sniper had failed, not through luck or accident, but through superior analysis of conditions everyone else had dismissed as impossible. Captain Rodriguez closed the incident report folder. "Chen, that shot saved 6 lives today. Probably more, given how unstable Voss had become." He paused, studying her face. "How long have you been capable of shooting like that?" "I've been training for complex conditions for 5 years, sir. This was the first opportunity to apply that training in a real situation." "The first opportunity we gave you," Mills corrected quietly. Maya didn't respond to that. The conversation was heading toward territory she'd learned to avoid. Questions about why she'd been overlooked, why her skills hadn't been recognized, why backup positions were all she'd ever been offered. Those questions had answers, but they were the kind of answers that made people uncomfortable. "What's your assessment of your capabilities for similar situations?" Rodriguez asked. "Given adequate preparation time and appropriate environmental analysis, I can engage targets effectively at extended ranges in adverse conditions. Today's shot was difficult, but within my trained parameters. Reeves shook his head slowly. Maya, what you did today wasn't within anyone's trained parameters. That was a miracle shot. No, Maya replied simply. It was preparation meeting opportunity. I've been training for conditions like this because I knew eventually they'd occur. Weather doesn't respect operational schedules. The debrief continued for another hour as Maya answered technical questions about her equipment, her calculations, and her decision-making process. She provided detailed explanations without ego or defensiveness, treating her extraordinary performance as routine application of basic principles. When the formal questions ended, Captain Rodriguez dismissed the other officers but asked Maya to remain behind. She sat quietly while he poured coffee from a pot that had been brewing too long. Steam rose from both cups as he settled into the chair across from her. 5 years, he said finally. You've been with this department for 5 years, and today was the first time I've seen what you're actually capable of. Maya sipped her coffee. It was bitter and strong. The kind of coffee that sustained people through long shifts and difficult decisions. I've been available for assignment whenever needed, sir. Available, but not utilized. There's a difference. Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. Why didn't you ever push for more prominent assignments? Why didn't you make noise about being overlooked? Making noise doesn't improve shooting skills, Maya replied. I focused on becoming better at what I do rather than trying to convince people I was already good enough. And now? Maya met his gaze steadily. Now you know what I'm capable of. What happens next is your decision. Rodriguez nodded slowly. Outside, the hurricane continued its assault on the city. But the worst of the storm was passing. Emergency crews were already beginning cleanup operations. Life would return to normal patterns. But something fundamental had shifted in the small world of this police department. Chen, I'm recommending you for the Advanced Tactical Unit, primary sniper position, not backup. You'll need additional training, certification updates, and integration with the team, but he gestured toward her rifle case. After today, I think we'd be foolish not to utilize your skills properly. Maya finished her coffee before responding. I appreciate the opportunity, sir. I'll do my best to justify the confidence. You already have. The conversation ended with handshakes and paperwork. Maya gathered her equipment and prepared to leave, but Rodriguez stopped her at the door. One more question. How did you stay so calm during that shot? Most officers would have been shaking with adrenaline. Maya considered the question carefully. Fear comes from uncertainty about outcomes. Once I'd calculated the variables and made the decision to shoot, the outcome was determined by physics and training. I trusted both. She left the building as the sun broke through the storm clouds for the first time that day. The hurricane was moving inland, its power dissipating as it lost contact with the ocean that had fed its strength. Maya drove home through streets littered with debris and standing water. Her apartment was small and neat, its walls decorated with shooting awards from competitions most people had never heard of. That evening, while watching news coverage of the hostage rescue, Maya cleaned her rifle with the same methodical precision she brought to everything else. The reporters focused on the dramatic elements, the hurricane, the desperate situation, the impossible shot that saved innocent lives. They mentioned her name briefly, usually followed by phrases like backup officer and unexpected hero. Maya didn't mind the brief coverage. Recognition had never been her motivation. She'd become an expert marksman because precision appealed to her, because the mathematics of ballistics made sense in ways that human behavior often didn't. The shot she'd made that day wasn't about proving herself to skeptical colleagues or earning delayed recognition. It was about doing what needed to be done when everything else had failed. Her phone rang as she finished reassembling her rifle. Officer Mills, calling to check on her after the day's events. "How are you holding up?" Mills asked. "That was a hell of a thing you did today." "I'm fine," Maya replied, settling the rifle back into its case. "It was challenging, but that's what training is for." "Maya, can I ask you something? How long have you been capable of making shots like that?" The question everyone had been thinking, but few had asked directly. Maya looked out her apartment window at the city lights reflected in puddles left by the storm. I've been working toward it for years. Today was the first time the situation required it. We never gave you the chance before. But chances aren't given. They're recognized when they appear. Mills was quiet for a moment. You know things are going to be different now. After today, you won't be backup anymore. Maya smiled slightly, though Mills couldn't see it. I know. I'm ready. The call ended with promises to talk more tomorrow, after they'd all had time to process the day's events. Maya made dinner and ate while reviewing the ballistics calculations in her notebook. The mathematics checked out perfectly. Her bullet had traveled exactly where physics predicted it would, following laws as reliable as gravity. Later that night, as rain continued to fall gently against her windows, Maya reflected on the moment she'd squeezed the trigger. Not the dramatic tension the news reports would emphasize, but the quiet certainty that came from thorough preparation meeting critical need. She'd spent 5 years becoming someone capable of making that shot. Today had simply been the first time anyone needed her to prove it. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to apply skills she'd developed in obscurity. The department's tactical unit would test her abilities in different ways, push her to grow beyond what she'd accomplished alone. Maya looked forward to it all, with the same steady confidence that had guided her trigger finger through hurricane winds. The storm was over. The real work was just beginning. The advanced tactical training facility sprawled across 47 acres of converted military land, its buildings designed to simulate urban combat scenarios. Maya arrived at dawn, 3 weeks after the hurricane incident, carrying her personal equipment in a worn canvas bag. The morning air held autumn's crisp promise, a sharp contrast to the humid chaos of that storm-soaked day when everything changed. Sergeant First Class Marcus Webb stood near the equipment shed, clipboard in hand, watching as 8 officers assembled for the intensive certification program. His reputation preceded him into every conversation about tactical operations. 15 years of Special Forces experience, 2 tours overseas, and a training methodology that had produced some of the finest marksmen in law enforcement. Webb didn't believe in shortcuts or sympathy. He believed in pressure applied until people either broke or transformed into something stronger. "Morning, Detective Chen," Webb said as Maya approached the group. His tone carried neither warmth nor hostility, just the measured assessment of someone evaluating raw material. "I've read your file. Impressive shot last month. Hope you can replicate that performance under controlled conditions." Maya nodded without comment. Around her, the other 7 officers chatted quietly, their conversations mixing nervous energy with professional bravado. She recognized most of them from department functions and interagency training sessions. All were experienced tactical officers with specialized skills. All had been selected for this program based on proven field performance. Officer Daniel Kowalski had handled explosive ordnance disposal for 6 years. Detective Sarah Martinez specialized in close-quarters combat and had trained with federal agencies. Lieutenant James Park brought helicopter insertion expertise from his military background. Each officer represented a specific tactical discipline, chosen to form a comprehensive unit capable of handling complex scenarios. "All right, listen up," Webb announced, his voice cutting through the morning chatter. "Next 4 weeks will determine who joins the regional tactical response team and who goes back to regular patrol duties. This isn't sensitivity training or team building. This is evaluation under stress. You'll be tested on marksmanship, tactical decision-making, equipment proficiency, and psychological stability under pressure." He gestured toward a series of buildings visible across the training ground. Mock urban environments, sniper hides, close-quarters battle houses, and scenario rooms designed to replicate every conceivable law enforcement situation. Your performance here determines whether you're qualified to handle situations where failure means innocent people die. I don't pass students because they try hard or show improvement. I pass students who demonstrate they won't fold when lives depend on their skills. The first exercise began immediately. Individual marksmanship assessment at distances from 50 to 400 yards, using department-issued rifles with standard optics. No personal equipment, no customized setups, no allowances for individual preferences. Maya drew a Remington 700 from the equipment rack, checked its mechanical condition, and zeroed the scope methodically while the others did the same. The rifle felt different from her personal weapon. Heavier trigger pull, slightly different balance point, scope with less precise adjustment mechanisms. She noted these differences without complaint and adapted her shooting technique accordingly. Beside her, Officer Kowalski muttered complaints about the equipment quality. Detective Martinez asked Webb if she could adjust the stock length. The others made similar requests for modifications. "You shoot with what you're given," Webb replied flatly. "Real operations don't wait for you to customize your gear." The first string of fire consisted of 10 rounds at 200 yards, prone position, no time limit. Maya settled into her shooting stance and began the same mental routine she'd developed over years of competitive shooting. Breathing control, natural point of aim, trigger press execution. The first shot felt clean, the rifle recoiling predictably against her shoulder. Through the scope, she could see the bullet hole centered in the target's 9 ring. She fired the remaining 9 rounds with methodical precision, each shot following the same careful process. No hurry, no wasted motion, just consistent execution of fundamental techniques. When the string ended, Webb walked the firing line with a spotting scope, recording scores on his clipboard. Chen, 9 out of 10 in the 9 ring or better. Acceptable work. Maya heard the scores of others as Webb continued down the line. Most achieved respectable results, though several struggled with the unfamiliar equipment. Officer Kowalski, clearly frustrated with his rifle's trigger, managed only 6 hits in the scoring area. Detective Martinez, an excellent close-quarters shooter, found the longer distance challenging and scored 7. The distances increased throughout the morning. 300 yards sitting position, 400 yards prone with sandbags. Each evolution pushed the officers further beyond their comfort zones, while Webb maintained his dispassionate evaluation. Maya's scores remained consistent across all distances. Not perfect, but steady and reliable. The kind of performance that suggested competence rather than exceptional talent. "Interesting," Webb commented as they moved to the next exercise. "Your scores don't vary much regardless of conditions. Most shooters show more fluctuation." "Consistency is more valuable than occasional excellence," Maya replied, shouldering her rifle for the movement to the next firing point. "Depends on the situation. Sometimes you need that one perfect shot when everything else has failed." Maya thought about hurricane winds and a desperate man holding a rifle to a pregnant woman's belly. Sometimes you do. The afternoon brought dynamic shooting exercises. Targets that moved, scenarios with innocent bystanders, time pressure, and physical stress. Officers had to sprint between firing positions, navigate obstacles, and engage multiple targets while making split-second decisions about threat priorities. The exercises tested not just marksmanship but judgment under pressure. Maya excelled at these challenges in ways that surprised even Webb. While other officers grew frantic as time pressure mounted, she seemed to slow down, her movements becoming more deliberate and precise. Her accuracy actually improved when stress increased, as if chaos helped her focus rather than distracted her attention. "Chen, hold up," Webb called as the day's training concluded. The other officers gathered their gear and headed toward the barracks where they'd be housed during the intensive program. "Walk with me." They moved toward the administrative building as late afternoon shadows stretched across the training ground. Webb carried his evaluation notes, pages covered with scores and observations accumulated throughout the day. Maya walked beside him without speaking, waiting for whatever assessment he'd formed. "Your shooting today was competent, but not exceptional," Webb began. "Solid fundamentals, good consistency, but nothing that would make you stand out from dozens of other qualified marksmen. Yet, according to your file, you made a shot 3 weeks ago that most experts would consider impossible." Maya nodded. "Different conditions. Different requirements." "Explain that." They paused near a bench outside the administrative building. Maya set down her equipment bag and considered how to articulate something she'd never needed to explain before. Standard marksmanship training focuses on optimal conditions. Known distances, predictable weather, stable shooting positions. It's designed to produce repeatable results in controlled environments. And real situations aren't controlled, weather changes. Distances are estimated rather than measured. Shooting positions are improvised. The skills that matter most aren't the ones that win competitions or produce perfect scores on qualification courses. Webb studied her face. "So what skills do matter?" "Adaptation, problem-solving, staying calm when variables multiply beyond what training scenarios account for, Maya gestured toward the training facility around them. These exercises test our ability to perform under artificial stress. But artificial stress follows predictable patterns. Real stress is chaotic. And you perform better under chaotic conditions? Maya considered the question carefully. I perform better when conventional approaches won't work, when I have to calculate solutions instead of following established procedures. Webb made notes on his clipboard. Tomorrow we start scenario training. Hostage situations, barricaded subjects, active shooter responses. You'll be working with team members, not just individual performance. Think you can adapt to that? I'll find out. The barracks that night buzzed with conversation as the 8 officers settled into their temporary accommodations. 4 weeks of intensive training meant living together, eating together, and enduring stress together. Personal habits and personalities emerged quickly under such conditions. Officer Kowalski dominated conversations with stories from his explosive disposal days. Detective Martinez organized impromptu equipment discussions, comparing gear preferences and tactical philosophies. Lieutenant Park shared insights from his military experience, drawing parallels between police tactical operations and combat scenarios. The others contributed their own expertise and experiences, building camaraderie through shared professional identity. Maya participated in these conversations when directly addressed, but didn't initiate discussions. She spent her evening cleaning the borrowed rifle, studying building plans for tomorrow's scenarios, and reviewing tactical manuals Webb had provided. Her methodical preparation drew some attention from the others. "You always that thorough?" Detective Martinez asked, watching Maya disassemble the rifle's bolt mechanism for the 3rd time. "Equipment familiarity prevents problems," Maya replied, examining the firing pin for wear patterns. "This rifle has been used by hundreds of students. Understanding its specific characteristics helps me predict how it will perform." Webb said we'd be using different weapons in scenarios. Might not be worth memorizing that particular rifle's quirks. Maya reassembled the bolt and cycled the action several times, listening to the mechanical sounds. Each weapon teaches you something about all weapons. The principles transfer even when the specifics change. Officer Reynolds, a veteran of numerous SWAT operations, looked up from his equipment inspection. "You always been this focused? Even before the hurricane thing?" The question hung in the air for a moment. Maya had expected someone would eventually ask about her background, her training, how she'd developed skills that weren't readily apparent from her personnel file. The hurricane incident had made her visible in ways that invited curiosity. "I've been shooting competitively since college," Maya said. "Started with basic rifle marksmanship, moved into long-range precision shooting, then tactical applications. Spend weekends at ranges, summers at shooting schools, vacation time at advanced courses I paid for myself." "Why?" Lieutenant Park asked. "Most officers do the minimum required training and focus on other aspects of the job." Maya finished her equipment preparation and looked around at the faces watching her. These were serious professionals who'd chosen demanding careers because they wanted to make a difference, but their training paths had followed conventional routes, building on department programs and established curricula. Her path had been different. "I recognized early that I had natural aptitude for precision shooting," she said finally. "It seemed wasteful not to develop that ability as far as possible, like having perfect pitch and never learning to play piano." "But why tactical applications?" Detective Martinez pressed. "You could have pursued competitive shooting, maybe Olympics-level training. Different career path entirely." Maya packed away her cleaning kit and settled onto her narrow bunk. Competitive shooting is about achieving perfect scores under optimal conditions. Tactical shooting is about solving problems when optimal conditions don't exist. The second seemed more useful. The conversation continued around her as the others discussed their own training backgrounds and motivations. Maya listened while reviewing scenario descriptions for the following day. Urban environments, multiple suspect situations, civilian complications. The kind of complex tactical problems that couldn't be solved with simple marksmanship skills. Day 2 began before sunrise with physical conditioning. 5-mile run through wooded terrain, obstacle course navigation, and strength exercises designed to simulate the physical demands of tactical operations. Maya had maintained good fitness through regular training, but several of the other officers clearly spent more time on physical preparation than she did. Officer Kowalski and Lieutenant Park led the running pace, their military backgrounds evident in their conditioning levels. Detective Martinez kept up easily, her fitness routine obviously comprehensive. Maya settled into the middle of the pack, maintaining steady pace without struggling but not setting any impressive standards. Adequate physical condition, Webb noted, as they completed the morning session. Tactical operations require endurance as well as skill. Will be increasing physical demands throughout the program. The morning's first scenario took place in a mock apartment building, complete with multiple rooms, stairwells, and civilian role players. A barricaded suspect had taken his estranged wife hostage and was threatening to kill her and their 2 children. Negotiation had failed. The tactical team needed to make entry and resolve the situation with minimal risk to innocent lives. Maya was assigned as the precision marksman, positioned in a neighboring building with a view into the suspect's apartment. The other officers formed the entry team, each with specific responsibilities during the operation. Lieutenant Park led the team. Detective Martinez handled door breaching. Officer Kowalski managed explosive charges if needed. The scenario would test their ability to coordinate complex operations under time pressure. Through her rifle scope, Maya could observe the suspect pacing near a window, holding his wife at gunpoint while their children cowered in a corner. The role players performed their parts convincingly, adding psychological pressure to the tactical challenge. Real fear, real desperation, even though everyone knew it was training. Sniper, do you have eyes on the subject? Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through her earpiece. Affirmative. Subject is armed with handgun. Adult female hostage in close proximity. 2 juvenile hostages in corner of room, approximately 8 feet from subject. Assessment for precision shot. Maya studied the scenario through her scope. The suspect moved erratically, making a clean shot challenging. More importantly, his position relative to the hostages meant that even a successful shot might not immediately end the threat. A wounded suspect could still harm innocent people before losing consciousness. Negative on precision shot. Subject movement unpredictable, hostage proximity high risk. Recommend coordinated entry when subject moves away from hostages. Roger. Standing by for opportunity. Maya maintained her overwatch position while the entry team prepared for their assault. Through her scope, she tracked the suspect's movements, looking for patterns or opportunities that might develop. The role player portraying the suspect was skilled, maintaining realistic behavior that complicated tactical decision-making. 10 minutes into the scenario, the suspect moved toward the bathroom, dragging his wife with him but leaving the children temporarily alone in the main room. The brief separation created a window of opportunity for coordinated action. Sniper, do you have a shot? Park asked. Maya assessed the situation quickly. The suspect was partially visible through the bathroom doorway, still holding his wife but no longer in direct line of sight with the children. A precise shot could neutralize him while minimizing risk to all hostages. Affirmative. Clean shot available. Recommend immediate entry to secure juvenile hostages. Stand by. Entry team moving. Maya settled into her firing position, crosshairs centered on the suspect's exposed torso. She controlled her breathing and waited for the entry team's signal. Through her peripheral vision, she could see officers moving into position outside the apartment door. Entry in 3, 2, 1, execute. Maya squeezed the trigger as the door exploded inward. Her simulated shot struck the suspect's center mass while the entry team flooded into the apartment, securing the children and evacuating all hostages to safety. The entire operation lasted less than 30 seconds from execution command to all clear signal. Time, Webb announced, ending the scenario. Debrief in Conference Room Alpha in 10 minutes. The role players dropped their characters and began discussing the scenario with obvious enthusiasm. The suspect actor complimented Maya's shooting position and timing. The hostage actors provided feedback about the entry team's coordination and communication. Everyone involved understood they were participating in sophisticated training that would translate to real-world capabilities. The debrief session analyzed every aspect of the operation. Lieutenant Park's leadership decisions, Detective Martinez's breaching technique, the team's communication protocols, and Maya's precision shooting integration with the overall tactical plan. Webb questioned each officer about their decision-making process, alternative approaches they'd considered, and lessons learned from the exercise. "Chen, explain your shot timing decision," Webb said, consulting his notes. "Entry team needed maximum tactical advantage when they breached the door. If I'd taken the shot too early, the suspect would have had time to react and potentially harm remaining hostages. Too late, and the entry team would have faced an active threat. Coordinating the shot with door breach eliminated the suspect's ability to respond while ensuring immediate tactical control of the scene." Alternative approaches? Maya had considered this during the scenario. Could have waited for entry team to establish control before taking the shot, but that would have exposed officers to greater risk. Could have taken the shot earlier when the suspect was in the main room, but hostage proximity made that inadvisable. The timing we used balanced all risk factors optimally. Webb nodded and moved on to evaluate other aspects of the operation. The debrief continued for an hour, dissecting every decision and exploring alternatives. It was the kind of thorough analysis that distinguished professional training from basic instruction. The day's second scenario involved an active shooter in a shopping mall. Multiple suspects, numerous civilians, complex environment with limited visibility and multiple levels. Maya was positioned on an exterior catwalk with oversight of the main concourse, while the entry team worked through the building systematically. This scenario tested different skills. Rather than one precise shot at a known target, Maya needed to provide continuous overwatch, identifying threats as they emerged, and supporting the entry team's movement through hostile territory. Her role was information gathering and target designation rather than immediate threat elimination. "Sniper, report!" Park's voice came through her earpiece as the team prepared to enter the mall. Maya scanned the visible areas through her scope, noting civilian locations and potential threat positions. Multiple civilians sheltering behind retail counters on ground level. Movement in second-level food court, unable to identify as threat or civilian. No clear hostile targets visible at this time. "Roger, moving to entry point Alpha." The scenario unfolded over 40 minutes, as the entry team systematically cleared the shopping mall, while Maya provided intelligence and long-range fire support. She identified 3 separate shooter locations, coordinated with team members to avoid crossfire situations, and ultimately engaged 2 suspects who threatened civilians outside the entry team's immediate reach. Her shooting during this scenario was more challenging than the apartment building exercise. Longer ranges, moving targets, civilian considerations, and coordination with multiple team members simultaneously. Maya adapted to these complexities by maintaining constant communication and prioritizing information sharing over individual performance. "Sniper, hostile subject northeast food court, civilian proximity high," she reported, as one gunman appeared near a group of hiding shoppers. "Can you engage?" Maya calculated the shot quickly. Long range, elevated angle, innocent people nearby. "Affirmative, but need civilian movement first. Recommend distraction from ground team." Lieutenant Park coordinated with other team members to draw the gunman's attention away from civilians. When the suspect turned toward the approaching officers, Maya had a clear shot with minimal risk to innocent people. Her bullet found its mark, ending that particular threat before it could escalate. The scenario concluded with all suspects neutralized and all civilians evacuated safely. The entry team had performed well, but Maya's overwatch support had been critical to their success. Webb's evaluation reflected this integration of individual skills with team objectives. Effective long-range support, he noted during the debrief. Good communication, appropriate target prioritization, excellent shot placement under complex conditions. However, your position management could improve. Static overwatch limits your ability to support team movement through multi-level environments. Maya accepted the criticism without defensiveness. Webb was correct. She'd maintained one position throughout the scenario when tactical movement might have provided better support angles as the situation evolved. It was a lesson in thinking beyond individual shooting skills toward comprehensive tactical awareness. Day 3 introduced night operations. All previous scenarios repeated under low-light conditions, with night vision equipment, thermal imaging, and illumination devices. The same tactical challenges became exponentially more difficult when visual information was limited and enhanced optics created new capabilities and vulnerabilities. Maya had experience with night shooting from her competitive background, but military-grade night vision equipment was new to her. The technology amplified available light but created a greenish, two-dimensional image that took time to interpret accurately. Depth perception was altered, movement appeared different, and precision shooting required adjustment to new visual references. Night vision changes everything about precision shooting, Webb explained during the equipment briefing. Your natural eye-hand coordination is based on normal light vision. These devices provide different information that your brain has to reinterpret. Most shooters need weeks to adapt their techniques. The first night exercise was basic marksmanship, with night vision at known distances. Maya struggled initially, as her natural shooting rhythm was disrupted by the altered visual input. Her first few shots were less precise than her daytime performance, missing by margins she rarely experienced under normal conditions. She adjusted by slowing her shooting process and consciously compensating for the visual differences. Rather than relying on instinctive target acquisition, she methodically verified each sight picture and confirmed her natural point of aim before pressing the trigger. Her scores improved as she adapted her technique to the equipment limitations. Better, Webb observed after her first string of fire. You're learning to work with the technology instead of fighting it. By the end of the night session, Maya had regained most of her precision shooting capability under night vision conditions. Her scores weren't quite equal to her daytime performance, but they were competitive with the other officers who had similar experience levels with the equipment. More importantly, she demonstrated the ability to adapt fundamental skills to new technological constraints. The night scenario exercises proved more challenging. The shopping mall exercise under night vision conditions became a completely different tactical problem. Civilian identification was more difficult, threat assessment took longer, and coordination between team members required enhanced communication protocols. Maya found herself relying more heavily on thermal imaging to distinguish between people and environmental features. Body heat signatures appeared clearly through the thermal scope, but determining hostile intent required careful observation of behavior and weapon possession. The technology provided information, but demanded interpretation skills she was still developing. Sniper, thermal signature, moving southeast corner, ground level, she reported during the night version of the mall scenario. Hostile or civilian, Maya studied the thermal image carefully. Single person, moving deliberately rather than frantically, carrying what appeared to be a long object. Possible hostile with long gun. Recommend caution on approach. The entry team modified their movement to account for Maya's assessment. When they reached the southeast corner, they found a security guard carrying a flashlight, frightened but unharmed. Maya's thermal interpretation had been incorrect, identifying the flashlight as a weapon and the guard's purposeful movement as hostile behavior. Good caution, wrong identification, Webb noted during the debrief. Thermal imaging provides limited information. You need to gather more data before making threat assessments. Maya acknowledged the lesson. Night operations required different decision-making processes that balanced available information with acceptable risk levels. Her mistake had been erring toward caution, which was generally preferable to missing actual threats, but could lead to tactical complications if it happened repeatedly. The week's final exercise combined everything they'd learned into a comprehensive scenario. Multiple suspects, day-to-night transition, civilian hostages, complex environment, and equipment failures designed to test adaptability under maximum stress. Maya would serve as primary sniper, with responsibility for precision shooting, overwatch, and real-time intelligence gathering. The scenario began in late afternoon, at a mock office complex, where armed subjects had taken control of a multi-story building containing dozens of employees. Negotiation was proceeding, but intelligence suggested the suspects were planning to harm hostages at sunset, unless their demands were met. The tactical team had approximately 2 hours to resolve the situation. Maya established her overwatch position on a neighboring building's roof, 800 meters from the target location. The distance was at the extreme range of her equipment's capabilities, but it provided visual access to multiple floors and approaches while remaining outside the suspect's immediate awareness. Through her rifle scope, she began systematic observation of the target building. Suspects visible on several floors, hostages grouped in various locations, evidence of improvised barricades and defensive preparations. The scenario was designed to simulate a well-planned terrorist operation rather than an impulsive criminal act. Sniper. Initial assessment, Lieutenant Park requested. Maya had been observing for 30 minutes, documenting suspect locations and movement patterns. Minimum 4 suspects confirmed, possibly more on floors not visible from this position. Hostages appear to be grouped in conference rooms on floors 3 and 5. Suspects have established overwatch positions at windows, indicating tactical awareness. Threat level assessment? High. Suspects demonstrate training and preparation beyond typical criminal behavior. They've positioned themselves to observe approaches and have clear fields of fire to delay entry team movement. Maya's assessment influenced the tactical plan significantly. Rather than direct assault, the team would need to approach the building covertly and neutralize exterior threats before attempting entry. Her precision shooting capability became critical to eliminating suspects who could observe and engage the approaching officers. As afternoon transitioned toward evening, the scenario's complexity increased. Weather conditions deteriorated with increasing wind and intermittent rain. Lighting changed as shadows lengthened and natural illumination decreased. The suspects became more agitated as their deadline approached, increasing the risk to hostages. "Sniper, we need immediate threat reduction on the south-facing windows," Park commanded. 2 suspects with clear observation of our approach route. Maya had been tracking these particular suspects for over an hour. They alternated between watching the street below and monitoring the hostages in an adjacent conference room. Taking them out would require precise timing to avoid alerting other suspects or endangering civilians. Stand by for coordinated engagement. Wind speed increasing. Adjustment required for long-range accuracy. Maya calculated the ballistic solution for 800-meter shots in deteriorating weather conditions. Wind speed had increased to 15 miles per hour with variable direction. Bullet drop would be significant, and timing would be critical to engage both suspects before either could alert their associates. Ready for engagement on your command. Engage in 3, 2, 1, execute. Maya fired twice in rapid succession, each shot carefully aimed despite the time pressure. Through her scope, she watched both suspects collapse simultaneously, eliminating the observation threat to the entry team. Her shots had been precise enough to neutralize the targets without alerting other suspects inside the building. Targets down. Entry route clear. The entry team moved quickly toward the building while Maya continued her overwatch mission. As evening deepened, she transitioned to night vision equipment while maintaining her precision shooting capability. The scenario continued for 3 more hours as the team systematically cleared the building and evacuated all hostages safely. Maya's contribution to the successful resolution included eliminating 5 separate threats, providing continuous intelligence about suspect movement, and adapting her shooting techniques to changing environmental conditions. Her performance integrated individual marksmanship skills with comprehensive tactical awareness and team coordination. "Outstanding work," Webb said during the final debrief. "You've demonstrated the ability to function as primary sniper in complex scenarios while maintaining precision under stress. Your tactical awareness and communication skills complement your shooting abilities effectively." The first week of training concluded with individual evaluations and program continuation decisions. All 8 officers had performed well enough to continue, but their relative strengths and areas for improvement were clearly identified. Maya's evaluation reflected her exceptional precision shooting abilities and her capacity for tactical integration. "You've exceeded expectations," Webb told her during their private evaluation session. "Your shooting skills are obvious, but your ability to think tactically while maintaining precision under stress is unusual. Most snipers are either excellent marksmen or good tactical thinkers. You're demonstrating both capabilities." Maya accepted the assessment without comment. The week had been challenging in ways she'd anticipated, and others she hadn't. Working as part of a team required different skills than individual performance, but the integration felt natural rather than forced. Week 2 introduces advanced scenarios, Webb continued. Longer ranges, more complex tactical problems, equipment limitations, and psychological pressure designed to identify performance limits. Think you're ready for that? Maya looked out the window toward the training ranges where she'd spent the past week developing new capabilities. Tomorrow would bring different challenges that would test everything she'd learned and push her toward new performance levels. The prospect felt familiar rather than intimidating. "I'm ready." The emergency call came at 4:17 in the morning, piercing through the pre-dawn silence of the tactical unit's barracks. Maya rolled out of her bunk instantly, muscle memory from countless training scenarios overriding any grogginess. Around her, the other team members responded with similar efficiency, years of conditioning ensuring they were alert and focused within seconds of the alarm. "All personnel to briefing room immediately," Webb's voice crackled through the intercom system. "Real-world deployment. Full tactical gear, transport leaves in 20 minutes. Maya pulled on her uniform and gathered her equipment with practiced speed. 6 weeks of intensive training had conditioned her body to function automatically during high-stress situations. Her personal rifle, now authorized for operational use, was assembled and ready within minutes. Ammunition, communication gear, weather protection, backup equipment, all secured in predetermined positions on her tactical vest. The briefing room buzzed with controlled urgency as the 8-member team assembled around a table covered with surveillance photos and building schematics. Captain Rodriguez stood beside a wall-mounted display showing aerial footage of an industrial complex on the city's outskirts. His face carried the grim expression reserved for situations where preparation time was minimal and stakes were maximum. At 03:45 hours, armed subjects took control of the Meridian Chemical Processing Facility, Rodriguez began, pointing to specific buildings on the display. Initial reports indicate multiple suspects with military-grade weapons and extensive knowledge of the facility layout. They've taken 17 employees hostage and are threatening to release toxic chemicals into the surrounding area. Maya studied the facility schematics while Rodriguez continued his briefing. The complex sprawled across nearly 200 acres, containing multiple buildings, storage tanks, and processing equipment, numerous hiding places, countless tactical complications, and the added danger of chemical contamination if the situation escalated beyond containment. Intelligence suggests this is a coordinated terrorist operation rather than a criminal act, Rodriguez continued. Suspects appear to have inside knowledge of security procedures and chemical storage locations. They've disabled most internal communication systems and blocked primary access routes with improvised barriers. Lieutenant Park, now serving as team leader after completing the tactical program, stepped forward. "What's the timeline? How long before they can make good on their chemical release threat?" Engineering estimates suggest 6 to 8 hours before they could breach the primary storage containment systems manually. However, they've already demonstrated knowledge of chemical processes that could accelerate that timeline significantly. Maya absorbed the tactical implications while continuing to study the facility layout. Chemical processing plants were inherently dangerous environments even under normal circumstances. Adding armed suspects and hostage situations created complexity levels that exceeded anything they'd encountered during training scenarios. Webb moved to the equipment table and began distributing specialized gear. "This deployment will test everything you've learned over the past 6 weeks. Long-range precision shooting, night operations, chemical contamination protocols, and coordination with federal agencies. Maya, you're primary sniper with overwatch responsibility for the entire facility." Maya accepted the additional equipment Webb handed her. Enhanced optics for extended range shooting, chemical detection instruments, specialized ammunition for potential equipment targets, and communication gear for coordination with multiple agencies. The weight of responsibility settled across her shoulders, along with the extra equipment. "Insertion will be via helicopter to positions approximately 1,000 meters from the facility perimeter," Webb continued. "Maya, you'll establish overwatch from the water tower complex northeast of the target. Elevated position, clear sight lines to all major buildings, and defensible if the situation deteriorates." The briefing continued for another 15 minutes as team members received specific assignments and coordination protocols. Federal agents would handle negotiation attempts, while the tactical team maintained operational readiness for immediate deployment. Chemical specialists were establishing decontamination procedures in case environmental threats materialized. Maya gathered her equipment and followed the team toward the waiting helicopters. Dawn was breaking across the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that seemed ominous given their destination. Weather conditions were optimal for precision shooting: minimal wind, clear visibility, stable atmospheric pressure. If shooting became necessary, she'd have ideal conditions for long-range accuracy. The helicopter flight lasted 30 minutes, covering terrain that transitioned from urban development to industrial areas and finally to the isolated chemical facility. Through the aircraft's windows, Maya could see the target complex growing larger as they approached. Multiple buildings, storage tanks, processing equipment, and the tall water tower structure that would serve as her observation position. 2 minutes to insertion, the pilot announced through their headsets. Maya performed final equipment checks while the helicopter banked toward the landing zone. Radio communications crackled with reports from various agencies coordinating the response. FBI hostage negotiators were attempting contact with the suspects. Hazardous materials teams were establishing safety perimeters. Local law enforcement was managing civilian evacuations from surrounding areas. The helicopter settled onto a paved area near the water tower complex, its rotor wash kicking up dust and debris. Maya exited quickly and moved toward her assigned position while the aircraft lifted off to insert other team members at their respective locations. Within minutes, she was climbing the steel ladder that led to the water tower's observation platform. From her elevated position, Maya had clear sightlines to the entire chemical facility. Through her rifle scope, she could observe multiple buildings, outdoor equipment areas, and vehicle access points. The complex appeared eerily quiet given the crisis situation, with no visible movement or obvious signs of the armed suspects reported to be inside. Overwatch established, Maya reported through her radio. No immediate visible activity at target facility. Beginning systematic observation and assessment. She settled into her shooting position and began methodical surveillance of the entire complex. The water tower platform provided an excellent vantage point but was exposed to observation from the facility if suspects were monitoring approaches. Maya used available cover while maintaining clear sightlines to critical areas. Through her scope, she gradually identified signs of the suspect's presence. Barricades constructed from industrial equipment near building entrances. Windows that had been blocked or modified to create firing positions. Vehicles positioned to obstruct access routes. The tactical preparations suggested military training and advanced planning rather than impulsive criminal behavior. Overwatch to command, Maya transmitted, observing evidence of extensive tactical preparation by suspects. Multiple defensive positions, restricted access routes, and coordinated positioning suggests professional training and advanced reconnaissance. Copy, Overwatch. Continue assessment and report any personnel sightings. Maya maintained her surveillance while other team members moved into position around the facility perimeter. The negotiation team established communication protocols and began attempting contact with the suspects. Chemical specialists continued their assessment of potential environmental threats. Everything proceeded according to the tactical plan Webb had developed during their flight to the scene. An hour into the operation, Maya spotted her first suspect. A figure appeared briefly at a third-floor window of the main processing building, scanning the surrounding area with what appeared to be military-grade optics. The individual wore dark clothing and moved with the purposeful efficiency of someone with tactical training. Overwatch to command. Visual contact with suspect. Main building, third floor, southwest corner. Subject appears to be conducting counter-surveillance with optical equipment. Copy. Continue observation and report movement patterns. Maya tracked the suspect's position while noting details about his behavior and equipment. Professional movement. Systematic observation techniques. Appropriate use of cover and concealment. These weren't desperate criminals acting impulsively. They were trained operatives executing a planned mission. Additional suspects became visible over the following hour, as Maya maintained her patient observation. She identified at least 6 individuals positioned throughout the facility, each demonstrating tactical awareness and coordinated behavior. Their positions suggested they'd studied the facility layout extensively and prepared for exactly this type of law enforcement response. Command, this is Overwatch. Assessment update. Minimum 6 suspects confirmed, possibly more unobserved. All demonstrate professional tactical training and coordinated positioning. Recommend treating this as military-level threat rather than standard criminal situation. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through her earpiece. Understood, Overwatch. Federal assets are being adjusted accordingly. Continue surveillance and prepare for potential precision engagement. The morning progressed with increasing tension as negotiation attempts failed to establish meaningful communication with the suspects. They acknowledged contact with authorities, but provided no information about their intentions, demands, or timeline for chemical release threats. Professional silence that suggested operational security training rather than criminal desperation. Maya identified additional tactical complications as her surveillance continued. The suspects had positioned themselves to observe all primary approach routes while maintaining access to chemical storage areas. They'd blocked internal stairwells to limit law enforcement movement within buildings while preserving their own mobility options. Most concerning, they demonstrated knowledge of chemical processes that could weaponize industrial materials within hours. Overwatch. This is Park. Lieutenant Park's voice came through her radio. Entry team is in position but facing significant tactical obstacles. We need immediate assessment of suspect positions relative to hostage locations. Maya had been tracking both suspect movement and hostage positions throughout the morning. The 17 captured employees were being held in a central conference room within the main building, guarded by at least 2 suspects, while others maintained perimeter security. Any rescue attempt would require neutralizing multiple threats simultaneously while protecting innocent civilians. Park. Hostages are concentrated in main building conference room, ground floor north side. 2 guards visible, additional suspects positioned to respond to any entry attempt. Recommend coordinated approach with Overwatch support for exterior threats. Copy. Stand by for tactical coordination. Maya adjusted her rifle position and began calculating potential shot solutions for the various suspect locations she'd identified. Ranges varied from 800 to 1,200 meters, depending on target position. Wind conditions remained favorable, but the extended distances pushed her equipment toward its maximum effective capabilities. Through her scope, she observed increased activity among the suspects as the afternoon progressed. They appeared to be preparing for some type of action, moving equipment and adjusting positions in ways that suggested a timeline was approaching. Their behavior had shifted from defensive observation to active preparation for whatever they'd planned. Command. This is Overwatch. Suspect activity increasing significantly. Recommend immediate tactical intervention before they implement whatever timeline they're following. Copy Overwatch. Federal coordination is complete. All teams prepare for simultaneous engagement in 15 minutes. Maya performed final equipment checks and confirmed her shooting solutions for each identified target. The operation would require precise coordination between multiple teams. Entry assault, chemical containment, hostage evacuation, and precision shooting support. Every element needed to execute simultaneously to prevent the suspects from implementing their chemical threat. All units, this is command. Operation commences in 60 seconds. Overwatch. Your target priority is exterior guards to prevent reinforcement of interior positions. Maya settled into her final shooting position and controlled her breathing. Through her scope, she could see 2 suspects positioned near the main building's entrance, armed with assault rifles and positioned to engage any approaching officers. Her first 2 shots would need to neutralize these threats before they could respond to the entry team's assault. 30 seconds to execution. Maya's crosshairs centered on the first target, an individual positioned behind concrete barriers near the building's loading dock. Range: 950 meters. Wind: negligible. Target partially concealed but with sufficient exposure for a center mass shot. She calculated the ballistic solution and prepared her trigger press. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Execute. Maya fired her first shot and immediately transitioned to the second target without observing impact. Her scope found the second suspect positioned near a storage tank, range 1,100 meters, clear shot available. She pressed the trigger again and quickly returned her scope to the first target to confirm effectiveness. Both suspects were down. Maya's shots had been precisely placed, eliminating the exterior threats while entry teams moved toward their objectives. Radio chatter filled her earpiece as multiple teams coordinated their assault on different facility areas. Chemical specialists began implementing containment procedures while hostage rescue teams approached the main building. Overwatch report, Park commanded while leading his team toward the building entrance. Exterior guards neutralized. Entry route clear. Be advised, additional suspects remain inside and may be prepared for coordinated response. Maya continued her Overwatch mission while the entry teams disappeared into the facility buildings. Through her scope, she maintained surveillance of windows and access points where additional suspects might appear. Her precision shooting capability remained available for immediate support if complications developed. The interior operation lasted 43 minutes. Maya listened to radio communications as teams moved through the facility systematically, locating suspects and evacuating hostages while chemical specialists secured dangerous materials. Her Overwatch position provided security for the entire operation, but no additional precision shooting was required. All clear, Park's voice finally announced. All hostages secured. All suspects neutralized or captured. Chemical containment successful. Facility is secure. Maya began securing her equipment while emergency vehicles converged on the facility below. The operation had been successful through precise coordination and professional execution by all team members. Her contribution had been critical during the initial assault phase, but the entire team's performance had determined the ultimate outcome. The debriefing took place 3 hours later at a federal facility near the chemical plant. Representatives from multiple agencies participated as they analyzed every aspect of the operation. Maya's precision shooting during the initial assault received particular attention from federal experts who rarely encountered such long-range accuracy under operational conditions. Detective Chen, your shooting performance eliminated 2 critical threats that could have prevented successful facility assault, the FBI tactical coordinator said during her individual evaluation. Shot placement at those distances under time pressure demonstrates exceptional skill development. Maya accepted the assessment without elaboration. The shots had been challenging, but within her trained capabilities. More importantly, they'd contributed to an operation that saved 17 innocent lives and prevented potential environmental disaster. Individual performance mattered only within the context of team success. Your tactical awareness and communication throughout the operation was equally impressive, Webb added. You provided continuous intelligence that shaped our tactical decisions while maintaining readiness for precision engagement. That's unusual integration of individual skills with team objectives. The operation's success led to immediate recognition for the entire tactical team. Captain Rodriguez announced that their unit would be elevated to regional status, handling complex operations across multiple jurisdictions. Maya's role would expand to include training responsibilities for other precision marksmen, while maintaining operational deployment capability. Chen, you've demonstrated that exceptional individual skills can enhance team performance rather than compete with it, Rodriguez said during their private conversation. Your technical abilities are obvious, but your capacity for tactical integration makes you valuable beyond just precision shooting. Maya nodded while reviewing the operation's documentation. 6 weeks earlier, she'd been backup equipment, overlooked and underutilized despite years of skill development. Today, she was primary sniper for a regional tactical unit with responsibilities that matched her capabilities. The transformation hadn't required dramatic personality changes or political maneuvering. It had simply required opportunities to demonstrate what careful preparation could accomplish. What's your assessment of future training needs? Rodriguez asked. Maya considered the question while reviewing her performance notes from the chemical facility operation. Extended-range shooting capabilities could be enhanced with upgraded optics. Chemical contamination protocols need additional training integration with precision shooting techniques. Coordination with federal agencies requires understanding their tactical philosophies and communication procedures. All of that can be arranged. What about leadership development? You've shown tactical awareness that goes beyond individual performance. Maya looked out the window toward the chemical facility, where emergency crews were completing their work. The complex had returned to normal operations within hours of the tactical resolution. Employees had returned home safely to their families. Environmental threats had been eliminated before any damage occurred. Success measured in lives protected rather than recognition earned. I'm interested in training responsibilities, Maya said finally. Developing other marksmen's capabilities, sharing technical knowledge, helping them avoid the obstacles I encountered early in my career. Rodriguez smiled for the first time that day. I think we can arrange that. Your experience might help us identify talent we're currently overlooking. The conversation ended with assignments for advanced training courses, and integration with federal tactical programs. Maya would spend the following months developing her capabilities while training other precision marksmen. Her technical knowledge would be documented and shared, rather than developed in isolation. That evening, Maya returned to her apartment and began cleaning her rifle with the same methodical precision she'd always applied to equipment maintenance. The weapon had performed flawlessly during the morning's operation, justifying the careful attention she'd invested in its preparation and customization. Her phone rang as she finished reassembling the bolt mechanism. Officer Mills, calling to congratulate her on the day's successful operation. "Maya, I heard about the chemical facility. Captain Rodriguez said your shooting made the difference during the initial assault." "Team effort," Maya replied, settling the rifle back into its case. "Individual performance only matters when it supports overall mission success." Still, those were incredible shots. 1,000 meters under operational stress? Most marksmen couldn't make those shots on a range under ideal conditions. Maya looked around her apartment at the shooting awards and competition trophies that documented years of skill development. Training investments that had finally found appropriate application in circumstances that mattered beyond personal achievement. "Training eventually meets opportunity," she said. "I spent years preparing for situations I hoped would never occur. Today they occurred, and the preparation was sufficient." Mills was quiet for a moment. "You know, people are starting to understand what they missed, right? How long you were capable of this level of performance before anyone gave you the chance to prove it." Maya considered the observation while reviewing her notes from the day's operation. Recognition was satisfying, but the missed opportunities were less important than future possibilities. Her career had changed dramatically in recent weeks, opening doors to challenges and responsibilities she'd wanted for years. "The past doesn't change," Maya replied. "But future opportunities depend on continued skill development and professional preparation. I'd rather focus on becoming better than dwelling on previous limitations." The call ended with promises to meet for dinner the following week. Maya spent the evening reviewing tactical manuals and ballistics references, continuing the education process that had brought her to this point. Tomorrow would bring new training challenges and preparation for future operations that would test capabilities she was still developing. Over the following months, Maya's role within the tactical unit expanded beyond operational deployment to include training and development responsibilities. She designed curriculum for long-range precision shooting, integrated chemical contamination protocols with marksmanship training, and developed assessment criteria for identifying precision shooting talent among department personnel. Her training methodology emphasized fundamental skill development rather than advanced techniques. Students learned proper breathing control, natural point of aim, trigger press execution, and ballistic calculation before progressing to complex scenarios. The approach produced consistent results across varying experience levels and equipment configurations. "Your students are outperforming marksmen from other agencies," Webb observed during a quarterly evaluation session. "They're developing faster and achieving higher accuracy standards than traditional training programs produce." Maya reviewed student performance records while preparing for the next training cycle. Foundation skills transfer across all shooting situations. Students who master basics can adapt to any scenario or equipment configuration. Those who focus on advanced techniques without proper foundations struggle when conditions change. That approach requires more time investment than most departments want to provide. Initial time investment reduces long-term training requirements. Students with proper foundations need less remedial instruction and adapt more quickly to new challenges. Maya's training philosophy reflected her own development path: careful preparation, methodical skill building, and patience with gradual improvement rather than seeking immediate dramatic results. Students responded well to the structured approach and achieved competency levels that exceeded department expectations. The recognition Maya had earned through operational performance created opportunities for influence beyond individual achievement. Her technical knowledge shaped department policies regarding precision shooting equipment, training standards, and deployment protocols. She consulted with other agencies seeking to improve their tactical capabilities and contributed to federal training programs. 6 months after the chemical facility operation, Maya received notification of assignment to a federal task force addressing complex tactical threats across multiple states. The position would utilize her precision shooting capabilities while expanding her responsibilities to include strategic planning and multi-agency coordination. "This is the kind of assignment that defines careers," Captain Rodriguez explained during their final meeting. "Your technical abilities earned the opportunity, but your tactical awareness and leadership potential make you suitable for the expanded responsibilities. Maya accepted the assignment with the same calm professionalism she'd brought to every previous challenge. Federal service would test her capabilities in new ways while providing opportunities to influence tactical practices at the highest levels of law enforcement. The path from backup officer to federal tactical specialist had required years of preparation, but each step had built logically on previous achievements. Her final operation with the city tactical unit involved a barricaded suspect situation that required precision shooting through a small opening in improvised barriers. Maya's shot neutralized the threat while preserving the life of a hostage who had been used as a human shield. The technical difficulty of the shot impressed federal observers who were evaluating her capabilities for the upcoming assignment. "That shot was surgically precise," the federal tactical coordinator commented afterward. "Margin for error was essentially zero, and you executed it perfectly under maximum pressure." Maya packed her equipment for the final time as a city police officer. Her personal rifle would transfer with her to federal service, along with the accumulated knowledge and experience that had brought her to this point. The weapon had served her well through training and operations, but the precision it enabled was only as good as the skills and judgment behind it. On her final evening with the department, Maya attended a gathering organized by her tactical team colleagues. The celebration was subdued, reflecting the professional relationships she'd built through shared training and operational experience. These officers understood the significance of her advancement and the capabilities she'd demonstrated under pressure. "You changed how we think about precision shooting," Lieutenant Parks said during his informal remarks. "Not just the technical aspects, but the tactical integration and team coordination. You showed us that individual excellence can enhance team performance rather than compete with it." Maya responded briefly, acknowledging the team's support while emphasizing the collective nature of their operational successes. Individual achievements mattered only within the context of mission accomplishment and public safety. Her federal assignment would apply the same principles at a broader level with greater responsibilities. The evening concluded with handshakes and promises to maintain contact as their careers developed in different directions. Maya left the gathering, knowing she'd found her appropriate level of challenge and responsibility. Federal service would test her capabilities while providing opportunities to influence tactical practices across multiple agencies. 3 weeks later, Maya reported to the federal training facility where she would prepare for her new assignment. The complex was larger and more sophisticated than any training environment she'd previously experienced, with capabilities for simulating tactical scenarios across multiple environments and threat levels. Her new colleagues represented the highest levels of tactical expertise from various federal agencies. Each brought specialized knowledge and experience that would contribute to the task force's mission of addressing complex threats requiring coordinated multi-agency response. Maya's precision shooting capabilities were one element of a comprehensive tactical capability. "Detective Chen, your reputation preceded you here," the task force commander said during her initial briefing. "We've reviewed your operational records and training methodology. Both are impressive, but we're more interested in your potential for strategic thinking and leadership development." Maya accepted the assessment while studying organizational charts and mission profiles for her new assignment. Federal tactical operations involved complexities and responsibilities that exceeded anything she'd encountered at the local level. Success would require continued learning and adaptation to new challenges. "What's your assessment of your preparation for this level of responsibility?" the commander asked. Maya considered the question while reviewing her career progression from overlooked backup officer to federal tactical specialist. Each step had built logically on previous achievements while revealing new areas for development. Success had required patience, preparation, and persistence, rather than dramatic personality changes or political maneuvering. "My technical capabilities are adequate for current requirements," she replied. "Leadership and strategic planning skills need development through training and operational experience. I'm prepared to invest whatever effort is necessary to meet expectations." The commander nodded approvingly. "That's the kind of response we expect from someone selected for this program. Your training begins tomorrow with advanced scenario exercises designed to test adaptability under maximum stress." Maya gathered her equipment and prepared for the challenges ahead. Federal service would require everything she'd learned while pushing her toward new performance levels that would define the remainder of her career. The precision shooting skills that had earned this opportunity were just the foundation for responsibilities that would test her judgment, leadership potential, and capacity for continued growth. That evening, alone in her new quarters, Maya performed the equipment maintenance routine that had anchored her preparation for years. Her rifle received the same careful attention it had always demanded, but now it represented capabilities that would be applied at the highest levels of law enforcement. Individual excellence had become the foundation for broader contributions to public safety and national security. The transformation from overlooked backup officer to federal tactical specialist had required years of patient preparation and methodical skill development. Recognition had come through performance rather than politics, achievement rather than advocacy. Maya's career trajectory demonstrated that exceptional capability would eventually find appropriate application for those prepared to seize opportunities when they appeared. Tomorrow would begin the next phase of her development, testing capabilities she was still discovering while preparing for challenges she couldn't yet imagine. The precision shooting skills that had defined her early career would continue to matter, but leadership responsibilities would require different types of excellence that she was eager to develop. Maya completed her equipment preparation and settled into her bunk for the final time as a local police officer. Federal service would begin with advanced training designed to identify her limits while expanding her capabilities toward new performance standards. The journey from backup equipment to primary responsibility had taught her that patient preparation could overcome any initial disadvantage for those willing to invest the necessary effort. Her career had found its appropriate trajectory through persistence rather than politics, competence rather than connections, and preparation rather than luck. Federal service would test those principles at the highest levels, while providing opportunities to influence tactical practices across multiple agencies. Maya was ready for whatever challenges tomorrow would bring. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.